Hi, everybody. Adrian Hanks and Tommy Gallant. Here we are again on CAP TV for you. Really excited to bring some content today. And as you can see, it's about action, about moving into that physiological space. So we're going to move across to Tommy and get a bit of expert advice from our Mr. Psychological Man, Tommy Gallant. And
as well as the logical man.
Absolutely. I want to tune into the aspect of connection because that's our topic for the week, Mr. Tommy Gallant. So, Tommy, just want a bit of a question for you, mate, in terms of Social Saturday, Soulful Sunday, heading into that Monday, into Move It Monday, and then we go to into Tasty Tuesday. What's a connection for you? How did you connect up, mate, between the few days? Do you want to share with you? Can you share a little bit with the guys about that connection of rolling over from one to the next?
Yeah, it's and thanks and hi guys. As you can see, I'm at the beach. It's good to see you doing your Move It Monday practice there. Yeah, it doesn't look that real to me. You're not convincing me, Adrian. But that's more like it. Yeah. Look, the connection. It's funny, you come off Sunday and Soulful Sunday, and you're very much sort of connected, I guess, which is the theme of the week, into yourself, to then how do you connect to your physiological side when you've been in your spiritualogical side, right? And it kind of think it would perhaps feel like a bit like you're crunching the gears and doing that change, and it can. It's a reasonable shift from one mode into another, and this is where the mind over matter type thing comes in, and like for me this morning, when I woke up and I was coming off having it was more of a social and a soulful Sunday for me yesterday with a bunch of people that I was with, and we were talking a lot about frequency and energy and vibration, which Tesla says are the keys to the universe, right?
Yeah, totally.
And now it's like, okay, let's get moving, and it does take that situation, and sometimes you wake up in a funk and you think, I really don't feel like doing this today. And so if you do connect with yourself and why you're doing this to begin with, and just grab hold of that why, you then start to think about that, and you think the body still doesn't want to do this. And what you do is you break it down. You break it down in little steps. You go, look, let's just get up first. We'll go and have a drink, go to the loo, whatever, and let's then make the call after we've got up and got a bit of blood circulating through the system. And it's funny because once you actually start to move, right, physiologically, little endorphins start to kick off, the blood's starting to pump. There are actually different hormones and neurochemicals that are starting to kick off in your body. Some of us produce a fair bit of cortisol in the morning. Like me, being an endurance guy. In fact, so do you, because we're both similar health types, right? As ectomesos. For us, it's easy to trigger off. Now, other different health types, they actually should be working out later in the day. It doesn't have to be in the morning. The best time for myself and for yourself is actually in the mornings. So it's breaking it down to, let's not make the call yet. Let's just do a couple of little things. Let's get up. Let's move. Let's walk around. Let's have maybe a cup of tea. Let's do our meditation first, whatever. And then what you find is it's not such a big leap, right? When you start connecting up that way.
So tell me what you're saying, really, just don't dive straight in the deep end. Just wade in, take your time, let the body waken. Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Exactly, right? The same, and then diet. You mentioned Tasty Tuesday, and if you're going to move to Tuesday, I mean, there's certain things that should automatically be a habit, especially if you've been on the program. We work on that where this stuff starts to become automatic for people.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't know whether now's the right time. We're probably going to say this a few times, but we've got something in the making right now, as you know, around a sprint program that's going to be coming out. More details to come. Yeah, we're
three words, 7 syllables. Begin.
Sounds like right. So we've got we're producing something for the members and for those that are enthusiasts into wanting to have a taste, a program, and getting some measurable results within 6 weeks on the physiological, psychological, and spiritualogical things that we do.
So a mental, physical, and mental sprint, Tommy.
Exactly. It's where it starts, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, as you would know, your subconscious doesn't know the difference, right? The ego would like to think it does, but it actually doesn't. And the ego is living in only 4% of your brain capacity, right? And that, I think it's around that prefrontal cortex as well anyway, right? The other smart bits in the back. So it's smart in the front too, but there's a whole lot more of it sitting in the back boot, if you will.
Hiding.
Yeah. And when you're in that, in fact, this isn't the psychological session. I get that, but in that transition of sleeping and waking state is when we can put some good programming bits in there. Anyway, getting back to sorry, what was your question again?
Mate, all about the connection, mate. Good job. One of us is bloody conscious.
One of those days I told you today is like the brain just ain't there today.
Yeah, no. You didn't get in the surf this morning, mate. That's the problem. I did, and you didn't.
That was it.
You didn't get those negative ions going around your energy.
Not enough. But hang on, well, I did get on the beach. You can see in the background, and I've stood there. No video conferencing allowed on the beach. Yeah. Even though I have done some, it's a way to get a couple of things done at the same time.
So, mate, that connection between Social Saturday, Soulful Sunday, into your the physiological for the beginning of the week. That was where we're at, mate.
Yeah. So thanks, mate. And then we went to Tasty Tuesday after I went on this little tirade. So Tasty Tuesday, and the Wellness Wednesday. I think everybody kind of connects into that one pretty easy because it doesn't require a lot of physical effort. It actually requires you doing the opposite. And here's where people struggle with that piece: is that they think, I'm not feeling any pain or discomfort or pushing myself, therefore I'm not doing anything. And it's just so inversely proportional in talking about that, where there's so much, as I keep saying, upside in the downtime, and especially where we are today in the corporate world and the world in general, right? We're just continually on our to-do list and pushing. And I had to learn some new habits of that, and that's why I sort of wear an Oura ring too, is to monitor my rest and recovery overnight, right? And this is more of a recovery type device, and it'll tell you to back off if you're going too hard, So when you do that, with that oscillation, because when you're building like a triathlete, same training, you sort of, you're loading up and then you're tapering off, and you're loading up and tapering off and going in that northerly direction, as I've said before, to build capacity. But you've got to come off. You if you don't recover, you're not going to build. You're not going to adapt. So it's in the adaptation is where the work happens, and you've got to come to downtime to be able to allow that to come into place to build those new muscle fibers, whether they're fast twitch because you're a sprinter and you're strong, or the endurance type fibers in your muscles. You've got to allow that part to happen, right, to adapt.
Yeah. So Tommy, question for you. In terms of this, you're obviously an expert in this field. You've been studying this and working with this for a long time. But for you, obviously, it wasn't always that way. Hey, like at some point you started and you had to get on board. Yeah, you had to sort of get on track yourself. Yeah. So can you take us back to those early days? If you can remember that back that far, mate. To when things are happening for you. Yeah, how long we got? And really give us a sense, because there's a lot of people jumping on board now, maybe at that beginning point, they may be at the start line. Yeah. They've got their new, we might do a product chat here, might have their new Nikes on, might have their shorts on, and t-shirt, all ready to go, but they haven't got a clue of which foot to put in front of the other, don't know what stride's all about, don't know what endurance is about or sprint, any of that stuff. It's all new, yet they're ready to go. Yeah. Take us back to your story to inspire others to begin their journey if they're in that beginning space, because there's nothing like a good story to inspire people, I believe.
Right. Well, hopefully to be judged as a good story.
Yeah. But make it good, mate.
Okay, let's see if we can embellish this a little, and not be 3 hours. Hey,
you're on the timer, mate.
Yeah, and I know I've got the timekeeper right next to me here. So, and keep me in the guardrails. So, look, I mean, whoa. I was 20 kilos heavier. They're about 18, but now because I put on a couple during winter, but about 20 kilos heavier. And this would have been back in my early 40s last year. About
You
13
beat me to it, man. I was just going to jump in there for you.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I was waiting for you to say you don't look a day over 70.
I couldn't get a word in as usual.
Yeah, of course. I wasn't going to let you into that one. So I was in my early 40s, and what was working for me, where I was putting on weight and think, I just need to run 2 or 3 times this week, and it'll burn off. Metabolism starts to change as you turn 40, and things just change, and it wasn't working. So I thought, okay, what else can I do? I run more? I just thought there's got to be a smarter way to do this. So I looked up, a number of things on Google. It was around then, 12, 13 years ago. Only maybe just new. Maybe it was Netscape or something like that. And I looked up the Singapore Sports Medical Center. I went and visited. I sat down with the director of the program there for weight loss, and there's an approach you take across. It's sort of a multifaceted approach. He was going to be the overseer over a 12-week period of this program. Checks you in, and he would check you every month, and then you'd also be doing you have a personal trainer and a dietitian, and that was it. It was sort of like this 3-pronged approach, right? And I look back, and even though because when I get in a program, I'll lock in, right, and I'll execute most of the time. And this time I really wanted to. I was motivated. Why? Because I was feeling I was losing energy. I was putting on weight. I hit 93 kilos, and for me it was too much, and I was way out of my BMI range. And so I had a lot of things to leverage on myself to go, you know what, let's go and get serious about this and get a program. So anyway, I did the 12 weeks. I lost 10, the goal was 10 kilos. I lost about 11. So I did some great work, but here's the thing. And it's like when you get the gym membership in January, and so many people, when I'm in the gym, and they crowd in January and they all leave in February, right? All have great intent. But I kind of asked the question to my personal trainer at the time, I think, whoa, I did it. Yeah, certificate, awesome. How am I what do I do now? It's like, I've been in jail for like 50 years, and it's like, what's it like out there? I don't know how to go back out there and like survive and keep the same, form that I had. And in fact, maybe even go further. She said to me, well, do you want to do how about we do a half marathon? And I looked at her and I said, are you out of your mind? That was my own bleep. Did you like that? My blooper? Yeah, editing. And she said, look, it's just like you've been doing. You're just going to continue on the same line, and you're going to build up. I was running 3 or 4 Ks in the gym, right? When I was going there 3 or 4 times a week to be personal trained by her. And so I said, okay. So I said, let me think about this, right? So I came back a week later, and I said, screw it, let's do it, right? In the famous words of Richard Branson. And she gave me a program, and it built up each week. And so I did it, and got to where I got to within the there was a 6-month program going up to the standard chartered half marathon, and in fact you end up running the marathon before the actual event. The event was like the dessert. It was the trophy, and you run about 20% faster because you're excited, and I did, and I got a really good time for my first time, and then discovered, holy crap, I can do endurance. So then it was, without going to all the machinations of what happened after that, but ended up doing duathlon, bought a nice bike, and got a few lessons on how to ride properly without killing myself and other people when you're locked in cleats. And then thought, well, I hated swimming, right? And I thought, well, people say it's technique. I had 2 lessons and learned that it wasn't this.
What was one lesson? What was one lesson getting you in the water?
Yeah. Don't breathe in when your face is down in the water. Okay, I think I can do that bit, right?
Good lesson. Good lesson.
Yeah. Survival. And we had some exercises. He taught me some technique, 2 lessons, and it came to me. Right now, I was never still not a brilliant swimmer, but I know now, instead of like only being able to do 100 meters in the pool, I'm very confident, and even without having trained for a while in the pool and so on, I can do 1.5k. I just go slower, but I have technique, right? I accidentally, in a way, step by step, became a triathlete, and then I'm starting to travel a bit, and I'm doing triathlons in different places, mainly in the tropics where it's hardest because it's hot and sticky. So that started to happen. I lost a few more kilos. So then I was like 15 or so kilos down, right? So another 4 or 5 came off. And then I started looking up, because I had a health wake-up call as I went for my one of my longer events, what they call a 70.3 or a half Ironman, right? And that's double the Olympic length. So, in Olympic length triathlon, you're doing you're swimming 1.5k, you're riding about 40k, and you're doing a 10k run at the end. Now, if you double all that, you're doing, what are you doing? Actually, you're doing a 1.9k swim, but you're doing an 80k thereabouts bike ride, and then you're doing a half marathon basically after you've warmed up at the end. And I was
anything over 10 k's is a half marathon for me, mate.
Oh, you're just a pretty good distance, mate. Well, you know what they say though, if you can run 10 k's, you can run a half marathon.
Well, I've done a half marathon. I did one last year.
Right.
Did my first one. Yep.
Right. And so there's so much of this is psychology as well. I had no idea, and I never wanted to run a half marathon, let alone I'm doing a half Ironman. It's like, if you told me that right at the beginning, I think you are out of your mind. Not this life, champ, right? It was an accident. Why? Because I took it step by step, and I stayed present down to that, right? And most importantly, I wanted to enjoy it, to participate, not to push myself into the ground. Like a lot of, especially executives, they're driven, right? A lot of them will go hard, and they're the guys that get really aggro when you're in the pen and you're doing a transition, right, from having done your swim onto the bike and so on. I'm thinking, dude, it's like, chill out. And I was still doing for my what do you call it, age group, whatever. I was at, top 20%, and I wasn't pushing it. But my body was built for it. Not everybody's body is built for that sort of stuff. We go into that, like in the program, and studying epigenetics and so on, to say, what are you best built for? You and I are built for endurance, right?
I am now.
And
I wasn't there, but I am here.
So there's a bigger. Just have a look. Just move over the side there. Just show people.
So this is May 2018.
Yep.
That was my second 10k run.
So we're talking 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
I did one previously in 3 years. I did my first 10k. 2 years ago, my second 10k. Last year I did 23k. So I was 87 kilos there.
87 kilos.
And now I'm 71, 72.
And that's coming from the spiritualogical guy.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Hey?
And that was hard work. The 10Ks at that weight was pretty tough going, pretty grueling. I didn't really, have the understanding of running.
Yeah.
Now I've got some technique.
Right.
I ran 10K last Wednesday for a charity run.
Yeah.
And apart from a sore knee, because I did my knee in, energetically I felt good.
Right.
But the point is, Tommy, I think what you're making is I made a start.
You made a start, right? And that's all you need to do. And like doing that, I mean, you went hard. And I know you, Adrian, as much as you're the spiritualogical guy, you're on the clip and you push yourself.
Oh, I do. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, right. Hard. To where you even keep me in line a lot of the time. This is how we sort of obviously work well together. But,
Is that a first, Tommy, is it? Keeping you in line?
Yeah, it's your first job. Good luck with that. Two wives haven't succeeded doing it so far, but I wish you well.
Oh, I've been elevated.
Yeah, been elevated. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, doing what you did there though is where people are going to be really careful, because there's a lot of, and especially execs, and now it's the kids, drive themselves hard, coming out too early, and they pull a metaphorical hamstring.
Yeah. Just for a bit of clarity, to get to that 10K run, I did about 2 months of run 2, 3, 4, 5Ks.
So you did build up.
But my max was only ever 5.
Right.
On the night, I pushed to 10.
Right.
In hindsight, probably should have gone 6, 7, 8, 9. But I didn't.
You should have.
Which is my nature. That's the
Yeah.
choice.
Right. So and people have got to be careful of that, especially executives, kids as well, because the diet is crap. There's so much omega-6 and processed bullshit in their diets. We've got kids dying of heart-related issues and stroke and so on because of a bad diet, and they might even look fit. And this is what happened to me, because after I did that half Ironman, I was turning 50, and I thought, okay, let's go and get everything checked as I move into chapter 2 in my life, Tommy 2.0. Let's go and check everything. And they said, oh, do you want to do a CT angiogram? And I said, what's that? And they said, well, it's where we check the pipes basically going to the heart. And I thought, okay, why not? Yeah, sure. Bulletproof. I'm a middle-aged millennial. I'm working with young kids. I'm the oldest guy. But I can still outrun them, outdrink them, out everything them. And so I thought, yeah. And so anyways, and I also had, man's stuff, prostate check, did a check. And, you notice there's a bit of swelling, and thought, okay, well, let's check PSA. And so I was a little concerned about that, as everybody gets a little anxious, and that's normal with those sort of tests, right? And anyway, it came back. They rang me and said, oh, your PSA, fantastic. All's cool there. I said, great. Okay, but come back for your results and we'll go through the rest. Okay, come back, sit down. And he says, this is the guy who did the assessment on my executive assessment. And he said, all right, so this is all good. This is good. This is okay. Bit of cholesterol stuff, right? But he says, but let's talk about heart disease. And I said, well, what are we talking about that for? It's like, you're talking to. And he said, let's talk about heart disease. And I said, okay. He said, look, this is what's come back on your CT angio, and I'd like you to go and see a cardiologist. And all of a sudden, I've been hit. The ego's taken a punch, and I've been, brought to mortality for the first time in my life. The only other time I faced my mortality was when I nearly crashed an aeroplane, which is another story. But
we might hear that one.
Yeah, you got one day. Okay. Yeah, that was an interesting day. But I all of a sudden, like the rug had been pulled from underneath me, and so he's lining me up with this cardio. Okay, so I go and see the cardio. He looks at the results and goes, and he's looking up on the screen and the CD and checking out the pipes. He said, look, let's go on. We'll need to do this again. You've got, the picture's blurry. They call it blooming, right? Right, so I had to go again. I went and checked again. And sorry, my gorgeous son is calling me. I'll have to call him back. And so I went for another CT angio, which is not that advisable because it's reasonably out of radiation. Come back. Anyway, I'm sitting down with him. Let me check again. And he says, okay. He says, look, we probably need to put in a stent here, and we could put one here and over here. And here's your $450 worth of Lipitor and blood thinner and everything else. And all of a sudden, my mortality has smacked me again. And I'm thinking, am I going to die? Right? Am I going to have like a heart attack any tick of the clock? And so this is very confronting. So I've gone, okay, whoa, pause, breathe. Let's go to Dr. Google and check some stuff out. And that can take you down any route, right?
Oh, yeah, it depends on left button, right button.
Right.
Red pill, blue pill.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I decided to jump into the matrix at this stage and hope for the best. I started learning about basically how screwed up the medical system is. The food system or industry, let's call them industries because they're about making money, and the education system, and how they're actually
or industry.
Or industry, sorry. Yes, industry, right? A system representing an industry.
Yeah.
And what really grabbed me was this was all about money before people. And I got to say, without getting too explicitive on this, it really pissed me off. And what happened in that is that I then a new purpose. In fact, you know what? It wasn't even a new purpose. It was my purpose finally.
Yeah.
It grabbed me and I thought, this is just all wrong. This is just what, and people should know about this and they should be educated and educating themselves, you know, because there is too much power that we have given away to these systems and the industry. And we trusted, right, those, that the regulators and so on, that this was all proven, proofed out, good, you know. No. So I won't get too controversial on this, but I thought, okay, it's got to change, and I'm going to be part of changing it. And being the change agent radical, like I am, like you are, thought, no, breaking from the pack,
Yep.
and I'm going to follow my heart, and I'm going to do what's right, because I also want my kids to be proud of me. That, Dad, were you just part of the system and, you know, normal, or my dad went out and stood for something? And firstly, I wanted to stand for something, and I wanted my life to mean something, and I wanted to bring as much positive change as I could. I can't remember which writer or author says this, but one of them, and you might be able to remind me, but you know, they wanted to really suck all the juice out of life, you know, and that's what I want to do, you know, or ROI, if I'm going to put it in business terms, right? And so, for my life to mean the most, and for hopefully my kids to be my kid, I don't think there are kids, they're proud of me. I thought, that's it. I'm going to go and take this punt, and I'm going to walk into the blackness, as you know, let's say Mr. Joe Dispenza would say, Mr. Quantum Physicist Researcher, right? And go where my amygdala hasn't recorded any safety or risk, and it says, hey, we haven't got any recording of you leaving the corporate world and making these changes.
So there was no risk analysis for you done?
No, exactly. Right? And I thought, well, this is going to be exciting. And so I stepped off at the age of just around 51. So, you know, this became started as a side hustle hobby, and I started learning about diet, and then I became vegan for plant-based for about 2 years, but not because of I'm joining the religion and I'm going to be a vegan and rebel against it all. The whole intent was always about health. Yep. And I was using, as my great ancestor would say, in fact, quickly, one of them, I won't put them all out here. Oh, you can't see him. There we go.
Probably not see it, mate, because of the, there you go. I can just see it now.
Yeah, so everybody, you know who this is.
Alexander the Great, is it?
No, I've got another one of those up there. Hippocrates.
Hippocrates, yeah. I can't quite see it.
Food be thy medicine, right? Medicine thy food. And he was right. And you get all the people that have broken away, functional medical people and so on, know that was so true, versus industry and money making before people, right? So I used food as medicine for 2 years to clean the pipes out, right? And now I test every year, and I would always do the load test, and that's what they tend to use. Getting a CT angiogram too often is not a great idea. I will get another one probably done in the next year or two to see hopefully what great work I've done. But now I'm eating fish, and I learned about epigenetics and how to not one size fits all on diet, nor movement, nor even sleeping when you sleep. And even thinking in your genius, it's all connected to your genes, but it's about gene expression. In other words, we can control which genes we switch on, switch off, and to what level they are transcribed or read, you know, into the program, like software.
Yeah, and of course, with that, you know, looking at the genomes and the body is like, it's all about the environment that we're raised in as well, because that has a big impact, doesn't it? And we can go down, you know, Bruce Lipton, biology of belief, and all the new science that's coming out around biology that's, you know, turning a lot that we've learned over the last, you know, 100 years on its head. There's some new information coming through that's really exciting. But I just want to pause a little bit on where we're at in terms of biography, because you've obviously got to that place now where you became a student. You moved on from being a student into being the great teacher that you are now, the facilitator, the leader.
Yep.
But I just want to, it's like this is the middle of the book. Yeah, middle of the Tommy book. So I want to just pause in the middle of the book. And just to get some context, I want to take us back a little bit to the beginning of the book.
Right.
Yeah. So we've had the middle chapter. I want to go to the first chapter about how did Tommy get to that corporate space? How did he get to 50 or 40?
Right.
What was the story behind that? Because I love that backstory before we got to the middle, because that gives us real depth. And then what we'll do, we'll pick up from here.
Yeah.
Then we'll do the final bit of chapter either today or another time.
This is like a movie on the fly. This is pretty cool, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go back to the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And we're going to get the birth of Tommy Gallant and a little bit of a backstory that bring us up into that 40 and 50th year of your life. So let's just put a pause on where we know we're up to, which is Tommy becoming the teacher.
That's where you start with that action scene at the beginning, and then you go back.
That's the one, mate. Yeah. Just like my novels I'm writing. I've got all the years going all over the place. So let's take us back to to whenever you feel like it's comfortable to go back to, and tell us a story from there.
Sure. Okay.
And you've got about 15 to 20 minutes at max. Probably 10.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So let's go back to, gee whiz, how far back? Child. My parents. I was an only child for the first 10 years. My mother left my father when I was about 4 to 5 years of age. I was about to turn 5. And I have a half sister. So a sister, when I was 10, Danielle came into the world. Obviously, different father or stepfather. And through those years, I was very much alone. I kind of had this thing in me with a lot of the inner chatter that goes on. So I think I was doing a bit of like the observing of myself at a kind of a young age.
Yeah.
I felt quite different from everybody else, and I was not adverse to breaking from the pack. And, as you do when you're younger, you tend to comply, at least in the beginning. But
so there was a time when you did comply, mate. Is that what you're saying?
I'm making up for it now, dude.
A short period of us.
Yeah, right. I kind of like went backwards in a way,
Or forwards, mate. Or forwards, depends on your perception.
Yeah, I'm having my rebellious teenage years now. I think, sort of regressing. Look, I was a student. I was middle type student, average. My father was good at sport, even though he was a Greek. He played cricket, like for the top team at school, and then started, I think, playing a bit for state, not state level, but was in district cricket and football, the Australian rules football, and he was a Greek, so there was no soccer there. And I kind of followed his footsteps there to a degree, and played sort of A grade-ish, not quite district cricket, but turf in my younger years. But once I was about 18. Before then, I wasn't at all gifted in sport. I worked hard at it and got better at it. So I played a lot of cricket in my youth. But I wasn't that confident. As a child. I also had gifts, like I could sing, and I can sing today, but I kind of kept that to myself. Yeah. The confidence wasn't there. There was a lack of belief in my abilities. So I was brought up in a like 50% of us these days, and there was a broken marriage. My folks worked hard. And so, there's that choices. And even today, that's still happening, I guess, with people sacrificing a lot of time with their children and so on. So I got to school. I went to a private school when I was going to high school. It was co-ed when I was younger. And that was tough, making that transition into a very English-like, I think Uniting Church, boys only private school. So I copped a bit of bullying when I was at school. I my talents in like theatre, I was kind of ridiculed a bit. I was, believe it or not, a pretty kid. I was good looking back then.
Held your looks, mate. You've held your looks.
Yeah, right, there we go. Right. So yeah, can't keep everything. But I confidence started to build around 15, 16. All of a sudden, academically, things started to come together. I worked really hard, like at maths. I ended up doing maths 1 and 2, physics, chemistry, and economics academically, and matric. Got a reasonably high enough score to get into engineering. And that was interesting because then the transition from high school, I wasn't confident with women. Maybe that still plagues me today. But
or saved you.
or saved me, whatever. Yeah, well, tell that to my 2 ex-wives. So I academically, engineering, university. I did that for a year, hated it, and it became super theoretical, and my brain just couldn't handle it anymore for some reason. Went and did economics to get my folks off my back, thinking, okay, this will be easy. I'll get my Greek mother who wants their boy to go to university and graduate and get the job, get a good job. And so I then economics, and that was so boring that I failed just about every subject. Failed just about every subject, bar one half subject in engineering. So my self-esteem at this stage was really crappy. And so I thought, okay, time out, time to go and work yourself out a bit. Took a year off. And that's when actually I learned to fly. I saw an advert and I thought, I'm going to go and learn to fly an airplane. That seems really cool. Introductory flight, $20. Yeah. So I went to the flight school, paid my $20 and loved it and thought, okay, maybe I'll become a pilot, In fact, no, before then, I was looking to become, oh God, it's all coming back to me now, a flight attendant, would believe.
Yeah. We're Qantas.
Yeah, right. So I thought I'd become a flight attendant, and so I went and did my first aid certificate because you had to do that before you could apply for a job. And after I did my senior first aid certificate, I thought, screw it, I wouldn't mind. I did a year of engineering and I know physics, and I thought, well, why don't I go maybe drive one of these buses in the air? Yeah. And so that's when I did the flying training thing, and got to restricted private pilots level. And I knew how to fly. I thought I'd stop there, not do my navigation exercises, because I then became interested in IT. The Commodore 64 was released. Right.
Now you're talking dinosaurs.
Right. Yeah. I think Astrid was the.
Remember those noises?
Oh my God! And the cards, right? And so I thought I'm going to go and do a computing degree. Applied for it. After 2 massive failures beforehand, they said, "Hey, sunshine, how about the associate diploma first? Try that. If you pass that, then we'll let you into the degree." And I thought, "Oh yeah." So the rebellious side started to fire up. I did that, 2 years, done it. Ended up taking 10 years doing a Bachelor of Business in Management Information Systems.
Okay. Yep.
It took that long because after I did the arse dip of the associate diploma, I applied for a job, programming jobs, then went for a sales job. My mother said, "Oh, no, you don't want to do sales," right? Because she did sales and says, "My son's not going to do that in a degree." And sales job, no. Got my first sales job, killed it, loved it. Traveled around the world, was earning more dollars than my lawyer and doctor friends that were doing that, right? And
it was golden boom time, wasn't it, for IT?
It's huge. The heady days of IT and the money and everything. It was massive. So that was the beginning of a sales career. That then, the next 28 years, I was going to build a corporate career in the front end, building partner ecosystems for the likes of Amazon Web Services, Zendesk, Hootsuite, all these sorts of cool companies.
Mm. So tell me, I suppose with all that qualification you've got now, you can drive Zoom.
Well, they keep changing the rules on Zoom, don't they?
Can't keep up. Not even Tommy can keep up,
Yeah. Oh, look, no. And me operating a photocopier, it's like I can operate a bit of IT. I'm not brilliant at it. right? Helping other companies to sell the stuff, I can do that. But using it myself, a
Yeah.
little bit better than maybe the average guy that's not IT background, you know?
Yeah. We all have our skills, my friend.
We do, and our talents, and we spend our
Yeah.
life working out what they are once we,
Yeah.
you know.
So you entered into that corporate space,
Yep, right,
whole new world. It was like, yeah, new fishbowl.
yeah.
And
So,
yeah,
yeah,
and tell us a little bit about that experience in that space, Tommy, about being in a corporate space for yourself.
yeah, right. Well, I mean, my first couple of jobs were in what they called the channel, the reseller channel, reselling IT for vendors like Akamai, Zendesk, Compaq, all those, right? Manufacturers. And the thing in your career was to get a job with one of those vendors, go higher up in the supply chain, or the food chain, right? And so I, at the age of 24, got my first gig opening up the Compaq office in Adelaide, South Australia. And it was me and an older guy. And that was like, oh my God, I'd made it. I was 24, I think at the time. I was one of the youngest little regional managers they were bringing on board. And here's what got really interesting with psychology, because I got the job, I was like blown away. It was so flattering. And, joined the number one PC company they were about to become. They were not number 2 or 3. They were big and they were going places in the world. Compaq, everybody knew Compaq, right? Whoa. But then imposter syndrome came into play. And this is where that lack of belief came in. Thinking, I don't deserve to be here. Like, maybe they made a mistake, right? Picking me for this gig. Why did they pick me? To the point where I actually even asked the hiring manager, a great guy by the name of Paul Brandling, and Paul and John Hanley, the recruitment guy. And I said, what is it you saw in me that I don't see yet? Was a question I asked them.
Great question.
Right? Yeah.
Great question for a 24-year-old.
Right. So I was interested in self at a young age, and through exposure from my mother, actually, and personal development, because being a Greek girl coming over at the age of 9, and being, somewhat ambitious, and she was sort of the matriarch, given a lot of responsibility of her 4 siblings, with 1 brother and 3 sisters, and the only one that could speak English in the family. So she had a huge responsibility, but she did personal development. That rubbed off on me. And so the corporate world, I'd entered and was scared, right? And I'm thinking, I don't even know. And I was left on my own. So, okay, we're Compaq and this is your service office, and go forth and multiply. And I
But I want to go back to that question you asked your boss, your supervisor.
Right.
What was his answer? Did he give you an answer?
Do you know what? They dodged the answer. They dodged the answer. I got a sort of a diplomatic response and I think it was because I don't think actually. Let me correct myself there. They didn't dodge the answer. I think they then responded, if I remember correctly, on why they wanted someone that was going to be younger and energetic, right, to come in. And I got feedback also through the lady that had put me up for the role, a recruiter, and they could see the level of energy and youth, and the fact that I'd succeeded so
You have energy, mate, dear. I never noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, you could talk. God, you get us both in a room, and it's like on fire, right? It's like, oh my God.
The Tommy and Adrian train, TA train.
The fission and fusion going on, right? So, yeah, it was. I didn't get a really clear answer that I could really leverage on and use. But I think they took it as why the other guy didn't get it, rather than why did I get it. Sort of.
And I suppose a deeper question: do you know now why you got it for yourself?
Yeah, great question.
You don't have to answer it today. We've only got a few minutes.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if
yes.
I just wonder if you get a sense of why, because that's the self-confidence, isn't it? Why we know we're picked, or why when we know we're chosen and we can name it, that's a sense of self-confidence.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Look, I think they saw a value system that they really liked. They saw capability. I mean, obviously, I'd succeeded and done quite well at a young age.
Yeah.
So that box got ticked. And I think if I look back at myself, well, now what do I know? That yes, I I have values and I hold them close to my heart, and I like to live and do what's right.
Yeah.
And I think they could see that in me, that I was this young lad that wanted to do right in the world, was an open book, was not already trained in ways that I think they wanted to mold me as well.
Yeah.
And, I took on significant responsibilities. We grew to 150 to 200 people. I had to reapply for my job through 2 acquisitions along the way. And I kept getting the role. And topic for another time. But I was left with the role of people many years older than me, and had to bring these cultures together. And I really started to learn about people and myself, and that was stressful for a young guy that didn't have any local support or a mentor. I had to try and work it out for myself, and I had some street fighters, corporate wise, that were looking to take me on and play the game. And it brought a bit of my Greek Mediterranean side out, that, not that many people, apart from maybe my 2 ex-wives and my mother, got to see.
And not the one that likes to sunbathe on the beach, I'm taking it.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, yeah. Different story. Looking back,
Yeah.
I can see what got me to where I got to. Yeah.
Yeah. And that sort of drove you into that corporate space with Compaq, and you started to develop that, and obviously then spent, 20, 30 years in that space.
Yeah, and always wanting to do some exciting stuff. I was 7 years with Compaq. It was awesome. And then the .com era, I jumped out.
Yeah.
And I got to say, part of the reason, being a little vulnerable here, I jumped out was I felt it was getting too big for me.
Yeah.
It was one. It was scaring me more. I was getting massive growth, but at a price to, partly, I didn't realize probably back then, to perhaps my health, the level of stress I was having in trying to bring these companies together, but also the excitement of the .com era. And I thought, I don't want to miss this as well. So it was January 7, 2000, I think, that I jumped out.
Wow.
January 7, 2000. Somewhere around there. Big day. Left, very emotional, and dived into the abyss. So this ain't my first rodeo, I guess. That was when I first did it at the age of 32.
Yeah, so we're talking 20 years ago, exactly, yeah?
20 years.
Yeah.
20, 21 years.
Yeah.
And that started my entrepreneurial journey. And then I started to learn that I was an entrepreneur. I liked taking risks. Didn't like taking risks so much as the excitement of something new, shiny object. Like being on the cutting edge and leading edge. And here I am, and I had a startup back as well, and a couple of breaks in between, because you could burn out pretty easily in the IT industry.
Yeah.
And so I took a couple of breaks, and in one of them I took the opportunity to start up my own business back in 2007, 2 years before the global financial crisis. So great timing. I think it's done well this time. We had COVID-19, but I think it's going to have the opposite effect with regards to wellness. Back then, it was, I started up this thing called SaaS, software as a service. I could see this was the new big thing, and the IT industry was trying to push it away. The big players were trying to push this away as something, an aberration that'll go away, a fad, and it wasn't. It was a phenomenon. And here we are with what they call the cloud today.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I was doing. So I always tended to be a leader, as jumping out and taking the punt to go first and forge a path where one didn't exist yet.
As you are with the Corporate Alchemist Project, Mike, you're jumping in here as a new paradigm, new leadership. We're taking some risks, we're bringing some different content, and that's what leadership is about, isn't it? Taking that, not always a calculated risk, but just sometimes an uncalculated risk, and jumping in, going, this is what I feel, this is my intuition, this is my sense of what's needed, what's required, and I'm going to go for it. And you and I are like in that space, and I think that's why we have that synergy between us to bring the Corporate Alchemist Project forward with our other team members, with Zoobs and the others too.
Yeah.
creating this new team of entrepreneurial pioneer leaders to take this beautiful project forward.
Absolutely. And, and the great thing is this time it's not being driven by, for me, survival as much as, I loved IT for what it could do for quality of business and eventually for quality of life. In the second chapter, and after finding my purpose, after my health wake-up call, right, and cleaning myself up, because I was fit as a triathlete, but I wasn't healthy, as I discovered, to then become healthy and then think, wow, all this stuff I've learned, I want to take this to other people that have had the similar challenges to me, perhaps haven't had the health wake-up call, as in mine was just getting some test results. I was asymptomatic. And if I kept going the way I was going, I could have ended up with, cardiac issues, heart attack, So
I'm pleased you didn't.
Yeah, so am I. We're in too early. It's
like, probably more pleased than me.
I'm still trying to work out this game of life, Yeah. And so, the purpose-driven now, it feels very different. Before, like running on that treadmill, running away from, it was survival as I look back now and thinking, okay, this day on my list of things to get done. And you felt good when you, whoa, finally got that stuff done. It's under control until tomorrow, right? And that is not a healthy way to be. It could have killed me. And I know colleagues and some people that were absolute guns, great people in the industry, younger than me, and two of them died within months of each other. And that also, and one of them I was trying to reach out to and have lunch and think, when are they going to be ready for me to have the opportunity to coach them? Because it was a huge amount of ego, which drove them from a defense point of view to try and succeed and impress their father. I'm not going to give any names, but I missed one.
The old male seeking approval father stuff, eh?
Yeah, right. What do you know? Right, totally.
I get quite a few clients in my clinic from
is that right?
Still looking for approval at 50, 60 years old. Like it's such a driver for men, isn't it? Like it's incredible.
It is.
Seeking that bloody approval.
Yeah, from someone, and it's mum and dad related, right? Yeah. And I had the same sort of thing, but I kind of, I don't know, switched it off and became this rebel, I'd like to think, with a cause. Because a lot of the things I do, and I don't mind saying, I love my mum, and what she helped me do in introducing me into personal development, but there's a lot of decisions I've made that have scared the hell out of her.
Yeah, of course,
That's from where she's coming from, and for me, I had to break away from that approval because that was a lot for a young guy to take.
Particularly with the Greek, that Greek matriarch, matriarchal lineage that goes back, hundreds or thousands of years. Of course, it's powerful.
It does, right? My dad, he wasn't there as much as perhaps he would have liked to have been. I mean, he's still with us today, but he had a big challenge early in life, which is, I'm not going to go through that here. And so I understand that, and what he went through must have been horrific. No, it was. Right. And I'm not talking about his personal health, it's about something else, but he was having to cope with that. And so one of the important things I learned in life was I had to take responsibility for my own life and get the oxygen mask to me first, which some people call selfish, but it's
I call it self-love.
It's self-love, right? And if you don't fill that cup first, you're not going to be any use to anybody else.
Well, the old saying, Tom, if you can't love yourself, how can you expect somebody else to love you?
Right. And how can you love somebody else?
Yeah, it's true, eh?
It is so true, but we're so conditioned and programmed on some of this guilt crap, right?
And by the way, everybody listening, watching in, we are going to go to the love space and the soul space and all that other places. So, because we're taking that risk, It's,
we are. And if you want the extra performance, if you want to take the full race, if you want to be in it for the full race, and if you want to get extra performance, and those peak states, I had to learn it as well. Then, like I said about the downtime, a lot of the stuff that you specialize in, Adrian, where there's money being left on the table because we're not using our heart, right? Yeah, totally, business, very much we're taught about always just what makes sense, objective, left brain, what makes sense, comply, right?
Yeah.
And that got things to a certain way. But the upside now, it's sitting there in Heart Math. Heart Math is one great organization, but
Yeah.
that heart and mind coherence, and then that's linking through the spirit and the soul. I've got the right way around it, right? That stuff is where you then connect to people. So you're not transactional as a leader, you're relationally balanced.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right, as a leader, and that's what we're trying to bring with obviously with the.
So Tommy, we've sort of come full circle from some Tommy story, and we've got time over the next few weeks to keep sharing your story, my short story, so people get a sense of who we are in the space. So we've sort of come back full circle almost to that Wellness Wednesday.
Yep.
And if we come back to that space and we start doing that thing called connection, you've connected some pivotal moments of your life that have given us, me and others, a really good picture of all those connectors to keep that connection going, to create the man that's here with us today. And if we hold that space of Wellness Wednesday, Tasty Tuesday, Move It Monday, just for those 3 days of the physiological, what are some parting words for you from people watching in to hold this week together before we make a close for today?
Okay. So to hold this week together, the connected piece, and right now it's so timely. And look, when you start going into quantum physics and these sorts of things, we are actually all connected.
Yeah.
And you can go down to the atomic level, and science proves this out, right? Especially in quantum physics, and I loved physics. So being connected to yourself first, and working out what that is, because we've been so preoccupied in survival and the reptilian or amygdala part of the brain, that we've been so distracted with being on that treadmill, and we haven't connected. And we're probably lacking. There's a lot of opportunity or upside in connecting with those that you love, connecting apart from connecting to yourself, to love first, like we were talking about a moment ago. And that starts with the self-love is like physiological, getting the exercise. Give yourself some respect. Give yourself some respect, man. I mean, it's like, and learn about what's the right exercises that you should be doing. Doing something at the beginning is a great step forward, right? We're going to break it down, but you can actually, if you're a corporate exec, you're always into performance and getting more. There is way in the science to be able to get that fine-tuned for you as an individual. And we're at that stage these days, and we can do that. And the same with food and with sleeping. And then we start talking about meditation and things like that as we head into Wellness Wednesday. And into the Thursday, right, as we transition to the psychological piece. Connecting to all those things, but from within yourself first, inside out, to then connect to your world. A lot of us haven't been in there, and we've left it too late. Some of us never made it.
And Tommy, you've either got about 30 seconds to give us a understanding of the self, or you can pass the buck on to me for the next program.
Right. And there it is, because then you move into the rest of the week. And and now with the ego, and you've had to manage a huge amount of ego in the past, right?
I've still got a little bit left.
Right. Well, apart from your own, I mean, then deal with your own, and then deal with the ones externally that you've had to deal with executives that you've coached as well, and I'll take you on.
Mate, I've been in the teaching, coaching, facilitation space for 22 years, right? And I've had almost you're
telling a story about a guy that got physical on you. Right? And don't mess with this guy, by the way. If you think he's like the soft soul guy who's like, you don't want to take him on. You don't want to take him on. So the physiological guy. No, actually, if you want to get physical, don't mess with this dude. So
I'll tell. Next episode, remind me to tell the Oak story.
The Oak story. All right, let's remember that.
He's 6'2" tall and 6'2" wide, and his name is Oak.
Okay.
It's a good story.
Okay.
Anyway, let's bring this sharing to a bit of a closure here. We've had some great connecting. Great to hear your story, Tommy, and there's so much more to tell, and I'm sure there's lots of different avenues we can take where you've left us hanging a little bit to hear a few stories.
Some of them I'll never talk about.
Yeah, of course. Maybe that's a private TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tommy Glant, great for your sharing. For everybody listening in, thanks for tuning in again to CAP TV. Tom and I bring this every Monday and Friday to those, what we call those transitional touch point days of the week, to guide in and out of the work and rest space. So please do connect, do make some comments, ask questions, do connect with us, because we're here to serve and support you in this great corporate alchemy project community. So Tommy, final words over to you, mate, and we'll head off.
Look, I know it's going to sound a little cliche, but it's probably the best way to explain it is becoming vulnerable is a key first step that, talking about exercise and so on before and doing triathlons and the first steps to doing that, take a risk on the emotional side, the mental side, which is the area that you specialize in. And that is where the gold is sitting right now. It's right there and for the world, not only just in business, but in life. And we've been through a tough transition, and I think there's some more to come. But on the other side of that is some great stuff, I think, for humanity.
Yep. Great parting words, my friend. Words of wisdom. Thank you, Tommy Glant. And Tommy Glant and Adrian Hanks signing off from CAP TV. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Adrian. And thanks, team. We'll see you in the group or on the project, the Corporate Alchemist Project page.